All right, let's see. How's everybody doing today? We got some move going on, right? Some jazz. I don't want to make everybody crazy by talking about jazz today, but as you saw in the description, if you were reading, it is talking about jazz chords, right? And the concept of sevenths. Right now, sorry, get my trusty notebook because, yes, like I said, I write everything down and I take extensive notes in my music making process, right? And I'm turning this off for a second so I have a place to write. Okay, so this jazz song in particular is written upon the key of E flat major, and I do this a lot. So when I'm making music, again, I do this all the time and everybody thinks this is crazy, but in the circle of fifths, we are looking at E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. Now if it kept going, we would have F, G, A flat, like up, you know what I mean, up the scale, B flat, C, and D. Now this is very important in this lesson because we're talking about some jazz chords here, and I want to move this a little bit closer. Now, the thought with jazz is not to make people crazy, all right? It basically is a way, and I say this gently, to extend chord. And I'm going to teach you how to do that today. And that chord voicings is what we call it. Alright. Extend chord voicings. And when we do that, the other thing jazz lets us do is play passing tone, is what I call it. And the choices here are interesting because two words, we can call them harmonic, or we can call them, is it enharmonic? And it might be IN, I don't know. Those are like your choices. This would be what someone says is in key notes, and these are out of key notes. And this is when you're playing like melody lines, but you can do that in chords too, right? And the other thing in jazz, it's the basic structure. You could like, and this is where you copy the greats, is kind of what people say. You know, because you got to study, like, you got to pick somebody in jazz in like the 50s and the 60s that you got to study, whether it's like, you know, what's it called, the fakes book they have. They call them fake books. And usually they have books like on the jazz standards. If you start learning those, that's actually how you would learn how to voice more like a jazz musician. That would take me a very long time to teach everybody. Today is the chord. We're talking about this first part today. So what we're going to cover is how to extend chord voicings. Okay, so this is like, so no one has a panic attack. We're only going to cover one thing today, right? And of course I like covering it on the move because I got a keyboard here, right? And it's kind of jazzy, kind of dirty, right? Now, I had another user comment on, I think the wording was, well, why don't you just either go from C or from, or you know, from major or minor was the wording I heard a user respond, and I appreciate people responding to me. And the question was kind of like, well then you would always be thinking from 3, 4, 5, 6. These two wheelhouses constantly. Okay? And modally, this isn't a bad thing, but you're only referencing 2 points. And in music, there's actually a lot more than just those 2 positions, the 1 and the 6th. Each mode has a name, right? And I've kind of been reluctant to tell everybody the modal names too, because of just keeping these streams pretty basic. But we're at a point now where I have to talk about the names of the modes, okay? So basically, when I write everything out again, modally, how I start to think, and this is because of jazz, I'm going to start talking about this. Oh, sorry, that should not be there. It should be this. Sorry, that's diminished. That should just be a 6. There shouldn't be. I wish I had a different marker. That's okay. This is our root again. This is your 9th. This would be 10. This is your 11th. And this is your 13th. Okay, so, or wait a second. Sorry. 1, 7, 9. Is that right? Because it's 6, 7. No, I was right. 9. This is 11. This is 13, right? So let me rewrite because I was getting kind of sloppy. It's okay. And again, we're E flat, F, G, A, B, C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, E flat. Okay, I write them out. I do my chords. So I know which ones are major, or the big ones. Minor are the little ones as far as the voicing, and the diminished is the 6th one. This is root again. 7. So these are your 7 chords are based on that. These are your 9th chords. These are your 11ths. And these would be 13, I believe. So let's make sure. Yes. Yes. Okay, so these are as far as you can extend a chord as, I believe, a 13th. Now, there might be people doing this further than what's going on here, but typically now what we're looking at in jazz, and we're in E flat major, and that's what this lesson is, right? Modal behavior now, the first mode, Ionian, you might hear these words now, okay? 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. They have names, right? Ionian, Dorian, you might have heard these. Phrygian, and I'm going from memory. Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, this is the important one because this is very key, and then Locrian is this one. Alright, so the names of the modes are here. And like I said, I've been kind of reluctant to talk about this on stream because this is like, we're at this point. I've talked about theory enough with everybody. But in jazz, you start looking at these voicings, the further ones, as like more flavor than just playing, you know, right, that chord, right? So on your move, if you just play every other note, you're playing 1, 3, 5 is where the chord makeup. So if I'm playing that 6 chord is what I'm playing there, right? 6 starts at C, so it's C, it's E flat, it's G, right? Now 7, we got to count 7 away from that. That's why I wrote this out. Your root's here, so the 7's B flat, and this would be a minor 7th is the name of this chord. And when I play it, it would sound like this. You hear, because that's the 6, 1, 3. So I'm playing a 6, 1, 3, here, E flat, right? The chords have a further makeup when you start playing 7ths, right? So, and then you play the next one, and then the next confusing thing on move is, and this is, they got to fix this layout, that's your 7th is up here. So when you play that layout, you do the chord, and you do your finger back here, right? The next one's here. Right? And those chords sound larger. They have a bigger sound. They cover more sonic ground. So when you're listening to somebody play jazz and you're like, man, that chord sounds so complicated, it's because they're not playing a power chord like pop music, which is 1-5. They're not playing 1-3, which I'm going to share with you guys. That's my secret weapon to building more complicated chords. Okay, so the trick I'm going to show everybody today with Move or any other sequencer you have is how to play more complicated chord voicings without having to know how to play them so difficult, right? And what I would say is when you're writing these down and you're thinking of the chords you're playing, you can play one round of the simple chord, like these small ones, and then next time around you could voice your 7th or your 9th, and you can voice those later so that your hands aren't rushing to play this huge chord on something that you don't feel confident about doing. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to do an example now. I'm going to go to blank set, right? Alright, and with the blank set, I'm just going to pick, a different drum machine for simplicity's sake. Yeah, 606, right? So, we're playing something. I'm going to play something kind of down-tempo-y so we can have time to play these chords. And I'm going to add another bar. Okay, so if we're going to play a jazz chord here, and I'm going to make this a piano, or I'll make this a piano. Alright, so now, I like this. Yeah, I like this one. Okay, so you got a drum beat going, and now we're going to think of the chords we're going to write so I can make these 7ths. Now I'm going to work on a common progression, like might be like a 6-2-1 or something, the way that resolves. So if I did 6-2-1 is what I'm picking. The 2 chord is based on F, A flat, C, E flat. That's our 7th. So that's another minor 7th. Right? And then our next one is our 1 chord, super easy. E flat, G, B flat, D, right? And that's a major 7th. So it's written with a triangle, usually like this. And in a book you would see that, but that's called major 7th, right? And that's like the easiest voicing to kind of hear, right? Very common. And that's where we're going to resolve to. We land on that as the last voice. The first chord, the 6th. So that's a minor 7th. The next chord's the 2. Sorry. That actually sounded cool, but it should be this. I was actually playing, what is that chord? That's a 6th. So that would be a minor 6th. That's complicated as well. That has a nice voice. And it's that easy to play a chord that's complicated. I know everyone thinks jazz is so tough. There's your 7th. It's a bigger voice. And that's our 2. That's a minor 7th. That's an F, F's A flat, C, E flat. All right, so the chord progression should go as follows. 6, 2, 1. See, the 1 is where you land and that resolves. Major chords are easy to resolve on because they're happy. They sound like a landing point, right? And here we go. We're going to record. 2. Here's my 6. There's my 2. There's my 1. I'm going to do 1 more time. All right, and these chords, they take up more sonic space. That's kind of the idea. Well, sorry, is that the chords actually take up more sonic space. Ah, hey, Columbia, what's going on, buddy? Good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah, and so now, when you do a bass line, you have 4 notes to play off of, right? So if I go to bass, and I'm going to just try to pick Oh, perfect. Like a bass guitar, right? Listen to this. See, even playing that 7th makes the bass line sound more complicated, right? Right off the bat. All right, so now I'm going to play my bass line. I'm going to play them in succession, and here we go. 2. Here's my C. And I played that one note kind of off. That's all right. And then now the idea is that when you play over this stuff, someone also told me that a cool idea is like keep it in chromatic mode. Well, that's true. When we're playing jazz, we always want it in chromatic mode for the soloist. Okay? And the reason being is there's a hidden note. In jazz, the hidden note is somewhere buried, in my opinion, now I could be wrong, all right, so the idea is that when we're doing this, the soloist now wants a flavor note, right? Oh, well, sorry, I'm not going to use that sound. I'm going to use like a flute so we can hear. Little Jethro Tull homage is the joke. My one friend says I do this all the time. Yeah, so, okay, so we're going to solo over this, and the key to soloing now is playing what note? Does anybody know? It's going to be in between 2 and 3, right? So when I play, you hear that note? So that is called minor pentatonic. So if you take, if you play 1, 3, 4, I know this is crazy, and the key here is the ghost note, the enharmonic note. It's the flat 5, 5, 7. That's the scale. If you play that over top of it, you get, so now I'm going to record that over top of this, and now what you're going to have is how jazz musicians play. We played 7 chords. It's a 6-2-1 progression, which is 6, a minor 7 chord, a 2, another minor 7 chord, and we resolve on the 1 chord, which is a major 7th. When I solo, I play a minor pentatonic, a 6, a C minor pentatonic over top of this, which is 1, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, 7, 1. And that's why I put this in chromatic mode. So we're going to record our solo over 8 bars, and here we go. 3, 4. minor pentatonic is kind of something similar to that, and I just add that note to it. So you got it. That is a blues scale. So typically the jazz musicians are playing this over top of whatever people are playing, and this is just a starting point. I'm not telling everybody that this is the only way to do it, okay? So if you want to dip your toe into more complex chords, and when I say that, the voicings are what I mean. Instead of just playing or you start playing, or you start playing, you know, 9 chords are, God, that's super cool. There's some great ones out there. So I wanted to keep this lesson kind of concise and short, you know, because I don't want it to be complicated. I want people to see that, like, playing jazz is about practice. And the next step, I think, for everyone is modal behavior. Because the idea that only a 1 position or a 6 position, a major or minor, are the only 2 exist is not true. There's a lot more going on with music. Studying your modes will lead you to playing so much more prolifically, is the word that I say. And when I started learning Lydian, I feel like some of Coltrane's best songs exploit the Lydian mode. I know they say he plays in C, and it's amazing because he writes some really complex music when you listen to John Coltrane. But I'm hearing Lydian in his music as starting points, so that when he plays, everything's like shifted, strangely enough, and he knows how to write from that. So I would say in your music endeavors today, write out a key like we've been teaching, but go a step further and write in a couple bigger chords for me. I want you to try your 7th. I want you to try looking at a 9th. I want you to listen to what an 11th would potentially sound like, or even a 13th. I'm not saying add it into your music. The music I want you to play now is just adding 7ths to everything that you do. If you want to go more like jazz or a jazzier sound, or you want to practice what I call a wider range of chords. And just like one of the comments, Aaron L., you are correct. The blues scale that I was playing, I say it's an alteration of a minor pentatonic, and that was really, really a good call out. I play 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, and I add the accidental note, the passing tone right here of the 5, and that's enharmonic passing tone. So that's what we learned today, learning jazz, studying bigger chords, right? You can do this on any piano that you have if you want to get into practicing larger chords and more spacing in your sound. And I recommend listening to more jazz musicians, or whatever is considered jazz music. Lately I've been listening to Yusuf Days, maybe Joshua Redman are some of the newer people I've been listening to. But this was an Ableton Live move stream on Jazz Chords in theory. And typically my streams are like this. I'm trying to help people understand music theory a little bit better. I'm trying to help everybody be a little bit more confident in chord building. I'm trying to show everybody that every time I write music, I write these things out so that it solidifies my learning in my brain. And the circle of fifths is where the chord theory comes from in the key theory. So always work with your circle of fifths so that you can successfully write. In the move, that is going to be the shift 9 button, and you can pick the key, in key or out of key chromatic. And hopefully that was a good lesson on modal behavior within jazz theory. So next stream, hopefully I'm going to start covering why the modes are so unique, and that's what I want to uncover in our music exploration together on the channel through Move and through Ableton. So remember, the next time that we talk, it's probably going to be about a specific mode. So far we've been a lot in the Ionian and the Aeolian modes, yes, for learning, but I secretly have been playing in a lot of Phrygian around you guys and a lot of Dorian, because Phrygian and Dorian seem to be where I like to play the most. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good Sunday, and thanks for tuning in and joining the stream. If you want to subscribe to the channel, it's just because you want to learn more about music And yeah, and if you have any comments or suggestions on learning or what you've been learning in this experience with me, I always like people sharing that, because then I know what I can put as subject matter for the next video. Okay? All right, everybody, have a good Sunday.